Hello everyone, Voshkonda here and you listening to Honey and Home, and today I'm gonna tell you about my trip to the Groningen. Yes, it actually happened. I managed to go somewhere outside of the Hague. But before we start, I would really appreciate if those of you who haven't subscribed to the channel, just hit the subscribe button, give it a like, leave your comments below. I would really appreciate your thoughts on this whole video, and yeah, let's get it started. Alright, so why you should go to Groningen? First of all, well, Groningen is one of the biggest cities, if not the biggest city in the north of the Netherlands. And, I've heard a bunch of stories from people going there, and I know that a lot of people actually, when visiting the Netherlands and staying for a longer time, when they choosing between the cities and they already visited Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, Utrecht, this Randstad oligopoly of main cities of the whole country, they usually then prefer to go to either Groningen or Maastricht. Maastricht is all the way on the south, Groningen is all the way on the north, so I thought hey, I'm taking a few days off. It sounds like the right time to check out Groningen. So where should you go? I personally still try to do some kind of a small clustering of the whole town just in order to check it all out. And I basically, when you're arriving, and I used train, and for me it was quite a long one, right? It was probably 2.5 hours. But when you arrive in the railway station, you're already seeing this gorgeous old building that welcomes you to the city. And quite on the opposite, quite the contrary, you'll enter in the Binnenstad, which is like the inner town. Yeah, I know Dutch. Yes, tuurlijk. And then you basically, on the opposite side of the railway station building, you'll be able to see Groninger Museum. And this is the Museum of the Contemporary Art. I'll describe it a bit later. So, as you follow the streets, and I basically was living on the other side from the Binnenstad, so in the Binnenstad north. The whole Binnenstad, it's kind of surrounded with the canal, and partially it also touches upon the river called Yes. Just one letter. I'm not entirely sure, because sometimes you'll see it written with 2 A's in a row. And there is even church called Church. Maybe it's Church. Feel so sorry to all the Groningers for torturing the name of their beautiful river. So as you follow the Binnenstad, you'll already be able to capture the main sites, and to probably the main site there is Martini Tower, and this is the tower basically connected to the St. Martin's Church, and it is one of the oldest buildings then still out there in the city center, and it's been dated back in the 13th century, and it's really nice building, and I'm really happy with the way it actually managed to preserve to our days. And I personally was quite surprised it was actually that old. I would be thinking that was from later ages. So Martini Tower is already located in the main square, which is surrounded by a lot of restaurants, and that's exactly where the town hall is situated. And town hall basically having those pillars, and it's quite an interesting architectural building, some sort of a neoclassicism in it. The inner city, where most of the sites and most of the beautiful buildings are surrounded, is quite concentrated. So you also be able to, you would not miss the Prince's Town, which is the Garden of Prince. And it's actually quite a small thing, so it's sort of easy to miss if you will not pay attention to the signs, because this is also the way I found out about it. It is indeed quite small, and it's just basically the floral decoration and one of the floral sites of the city. So as you just walk around the city center, you'll be able to see more and more of those beautiful buildings, and some of them, I don't think they even have like their certain specific name, but there is the Merchant Street where you just walk by and you see all the shops, and most of them also located in quite a some of them in new modern buildings, some of them still located in the old ones, so it's quite interesting to see. Then, lucky enough, I actually had a bike when I arrived to Groningen, even though for just a couple of hours because I got a flat tire somewhere in the middle of my trip. But because of this, I managed to go all the way to the north, where the campus of the university is located. And the main building of the university is actually in the city center, and it is marvelous sight to see. It actually located in quite a tiny street, and I think as it was built mainly in those medieval times when the cities was founded, it's almost 1,000 years old. All the streets are so tiny and narrow, then sometimes you may not be even paying attention to something that big or spectacular. So at first, I think I only found out the university only in the second day of me being in Groningen, while it was literally almost next to the main square where I was walking all the time. And the building is really nice. I really love the way that it was looking. I first thought that maybe this is actually the city hall and that was some kind of another office. But I'm quite a bit jealous that students of the Groningen University are able to visit this great building. And yeah, I'm throwing a stone to RSM. Erasmus, you should up your game. But still, the main stuff is happening quite outside, already on the outskirts of the Groningen, in the place called Reitdiep, I think. Another reason why I actually went all the way to the north is just to see the quite a picturesque quarter of the Groningen, which usually not for some reason being mentioned a lot of times. But I think it should definitely grow in their popularity. And this is the Reitdiephaven. And this is such an interesting project was made out there, because all the houses that are located in Reitdiephaven, they are all having this Scandinavian feeling. So all of them are painted in different bright colors. Most of them I think are blue, yellow, and red. They look almost similar to one another, and overall it just feels like you're already not in the Netherlands anymore, but you already have this kind of a northern influence, which I thought was pretty cool, because this is definitely something I would have expect from Groningen. But I've never been to the north, and to me, being around a lot of smaller towns, bigger cities in the Netherlands, and mainly it was South and North Holland where I went, and Utrecht as well, which counts for their own province. They still had a lot of similarities between each other, and they weren't as different. And I think Groningen definitely has their own character to it. I think it's really worth mentioning the Hoornse Meer. Basically, Meer pretty much stands for lake. And it is really indeed a huge lake. It's actually located on the border between Groningen and Drenthe. Drenthe is another province of the Netherlands, and I was quite surprised that while I was walking there at some point, I was walking the street, which basically is the division between two provinces. So actually I decided to spend quite some time on the Hoornse Meer, and not having the bike anymore, I needed to walk there. And the weather was nice, so I was like, hey, I'll give it a shot, I'll just walk there for 1 hour. Still was a great decision. And I think last but not the least, I also decided to check out the surroundings around the football stadium, because Groningen also famous, or well, not sure if they are, but maybe they are a bit more famous now as Arjen Robben returned to the club. Yeah, for their football team called FC Groningen, and they're playing at the stadium called Hitachi Capital Mobility Stadium. And well, I didn't expect too much, and well, I got what I expected. There wasn't really much to see around the stadium besides that. So there is still quite a neat neighborhood, quite around it, filled in with new houses, and I think all of them had quite a modern style and design to it. So it was quite interesting to see what modern Dutch architects actually planning to fill in the new streets and the new districts with. There were a bunch of interesting, totally modern buildings, like the library that's located right in the city center, close to another locations for a lot of restaurants and stuff. So went all the way out there, and there is a beautiful view for the rest of Groningen. You're also able to have a nice drink and chat with other people. So that also definitely a landmark you guys should visit. Groningen is quite neat and hip, and more to say to it is the Groninger Museum. This is something that I actually postponed to my very last day of stay in Groningen, and I basically was there for 2.5 days. Still totally worth it. The building itself is quite interesting. So it is a postmodernist building, and one of the main designers was Alessandro Mendini, one of the quite a prominent designers, both for production design but also for just artistic stuff. And I think mostly he was involved in designing interesting furniture, to be honest. And at least this is the impression I got from the exhibition that was within the museum. And actually he deceased, I think, a couple of years ago. So in his memory, they made a whole exhibition with his works. And those were quite great pieces of art, I would say. And even though, I personally not really leaning towards the other forms of art when it comes to furniture or even ceramics, I'm not a huge fan of those, but the works of Mendini really felt like something interesting to me. So it was definitely a nice experience overall. And there were also works of some other postmodernist artists. I definitely spent quite some time walking around, looking at also the permanent exhibition that is out there. All of them are worth it. There is also much less contemporary art that you can find out there, mainly the paintings of also artists from Groningen, I think, from the north of the Netherlands. There is a big collection of the postmodernists. I think it was Dijkstra that was presented there, and quite a big collection of his works. So maybe for those who mainly know a couple of really famous Dutch painters like Van Gogh or Rembrandt or Vermeer, right? That was the third guy. It could be really quite eye-opening for those who want to learn more about Dutch art. And besides all of this, I really liked the small exhibition that they made for the graphic artist who was making posters for the local club. Basically, for every single show that was made, there was the self-taught graphic artist who was kind of going from quite a creative angle when making a poster for a band playing in this specific club. And I think I really enjoyed some of the posters and would really be down to buy some of the reproductions, but unfortunately none of them were available. So at the end of the day, Groninger Museum is a really nice one, and it's definitely one of the top things that you should visit when you are in Groningen. So there's been a bunch of nice places around, and I think if you really want to try something out, you can just safely go to two main streets, at least in my view, those main streets for food. So one of those called Oude Kijk, Oude Jatstraat, and another one is Oude Ebbingestraat. So in both places there are a bunch of different coffee shops. So I think one of those I should mention would be the Kattencafé op zijn kop, which is the cafe with cats. Everybody loves cats, right? You'll be able to pet some cats, cuddle them, and drink something. Right. Cool, nice. Also, Food Matters. I think in a lot of places I was getting coffee, so Food Matters was quite a good place for it. For food, I went to FLFL, which is a falafel place. Really nice one. Probably the best falafel. I also got quite a nice coffee from Black and Bloom. And I had a lunch in the PS Coffee Tea and Tart. Also quite a nice place. Good coffee. Food was also nice. I think that was it. My trip to Groningen in a nutshell. And I hope you guys enjoyed my story. And as always, leave your comments below. Subscribe to the channel. Give a like. You know what you gotta do. You do what you gotta do, guys. Thank you. Bye.